How would it feel to have a thriving fitness business and have the freedom to enjoy life at the fullest? Well, that is exactly what the Trainer Revenue Multiplier show is going to give you. My name is Mathew Park. This is Jaime Filer.
Hey guys.
And we are here to serve.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Trainer Revenue Multiplier podcast. As always, I am your host, Jaime Filer, and I am joined today by my favorite co-host. I'm allowed to say that, Mathew Park. How are you, sir?
I am doing amazing, Filer. It's good to see your smiling face. I love doing podcasts with you because you're absolutely amazing to do podcasts. I feel like we just bounce off all these awesome ideas together with your powerful, amazing brain. But you're in Canada right now. You're north of the border.
I am. Just until tomorrow. I can't believe how quickly a week flew by. It was a very clear indicator of how much fun I was having, that it didn't even feel like a week, honestly.
Well, I can see the nice, beautiful trees in the background, the Canadian maple trees kind of back in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you go back tomorrow. You've been in Canada for a week. Are you missing Canada, Jaime?
I am. Particularly during this season. I don't miss Canada between November and April. But you know, Canada is beautiful and there are no seasons in Florida. So it's nice to catch summer here and fall. Yeah.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, we have a pretty awesome podcast today. Of course, topic you've been teaching in Gold for the last couple of weeks. It's a hot topic, Jaime?
Yeah, it's really important. And this was the first semester of TRM where we've actually taught it. At first, we considered it a little more high level. We were presenting it in platinum. Well, specifically, Amanda was presenting it in platinum, but we realized that really standard operating procedures are something you need even before you start a business, let alone once you have one and it's already started to grow.
100%. You know, Amanda put together some amazing trainings you were teaching in Gold. They were absolutely phenomenal. It's just cool to see how much, now that we've got this in the new training that you've been teaching in Gold, how much people, members or receptors to the actual new stuff are like, oh my goodness, this is so powerful, so amazing. Even our coaches that are doing six figures, they're leveling up with higher level stuff, which absolutely is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that regardless of where you are in your business, whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 figures, your SOP should be ever evolving, because clearly your business has evolved, and with every level of your growth should come another level of how you need things done or how you want things done.
So what's your definition, Jaime, of what an SOP would mean in your eyes?
To me, an SOP in my eyes is something written down that clearly explains the way part of your business operates. The best way to explain it is whether you go to McDonald's in Montreal, Canada, Toronto, St. Pete, Florida, somewhere in Europe, a Big Mac is always made the same way, right? There is a formula, there is a structure to how the Big Mac is made, and you can explain to somebody the layers, literally the layers of a Big Mac, right? And they're not going to flip it around in France and turn it on its head. No. Like, again, regardless of where you're going, there's an SOP for the creation of a Big Mac. Your business should be the same. People should know exactly what they're getting and what to expect, whether they're being delivered it by you or by your assistant or by your virtual assistant. Your company should look the same in all areas of the world.
I love that. What do you think is probably one of the most important, Jaime? Like, when you think of the SOP in your eyes, what part of it do you think has been the most impact? Like, of course, you can cover many layers in the SOPs, right? But what part has there been one part that was almost like when you got that in your SOP, it really helped your business grow a lot faster and a lot better?
Yeah. We're jumping ahead, but I love this because we can always work backwards. It's setting the standards. So for example, creating an SOP for the flow of a compatibility call was really important. But as soon as I set the standard for how many compatibility calls I want my setter to book for me, how many compatibility calls I expect my assistant coaches to book for themselves every week, that was a game changer. Because it's all well and good to have the structure, but if you don't have going to sound harsh, but if you don't have a code to enforce it, what good is it, right? Like, okay, great. Everyone in the restaurant knows how to make a Big Mac, but you have no customers to sell to. So again, setting those standards for how many conversations I want you to start every day, how many calls I want you to pitch, how many calls I want you to book, how many sales I want you to close. It's important to know how to start conversations, how to pitch calls, how to book said calls, and how to close said clients. But you need numbers so that you actually have the people to practice on.
I love that. I love that. That's so good. And as part of the SOP, Jaime, I know obviously you taught that like this week and last week in the Gold program. There was actually, was there 7? There was 1, 2, 3. There were 7 areas we talked about, I believe, 7 sections that Amanda had made and also you taught in the program, with the first one being purpose and method, right, and the vision and so forth. Would you say that's probably one of the most important ones, do you think, with the SOP process? What do you think, Jaime?
I do, because it's essentially the first thing that whomever's going to read your SOP will understand about the nature of your business. And it's going to dictate, right? Like if you walk into my house, Mathew, and I immediately say, whoa, take your shoes off. This isn't a farm. You pretty much know how your visit in my house is going to go, right? Or if I'm like, hey, make yourself at home, Mathew. I've got slippers if you want, or you can keep your shoes on. I don't care. As long as you're comfortable. Again, you'll get a sense for how I run my home.
Yeah.
So if your SOP doesn't come with personality and how you want your business governed, it's going to be a free-for-all, right? Like your assistant coaches, your setters, your VAs are going to talk to clients, prospects, friends, however they want, not however you want.
That's a very good point. I like that point about the standard part, which also probably relate to core values, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Like one of my, the first core value is transparent communication, which is important because then, you know, as soon as my assistant coach is reading my SOP, if they're like, this is not congruent for me, they've done a great job of adhering to the core value of transparent communication. If they're like, this sales script sounds very salesy, I'll be like, cool. What can we do to make it more congruent? How can we make it sound like something you'd feel comfortable saying to someone else? So going through the SOP, you have to come at it with the eyes and the ears of and the heart of the core values of your business.
I like one part you mentioned about how the way it sounded, what you kind of described, it was almost like it's always open for enhancement. You know, always open for improvement. Like for example, your setter comes in, sees an improvement, boom, make an adjustment. So would you say that the SOP is always evolving?
Oh, 100%. It should be written, well, it should be written online, but in pencil rather than pen, if you know what I mean, right? Like it's not carved in stone at all. So 100%, it should be fluid. It should be open to change, not necessarily open to interpretation. Again, that's why we have standards and that's why we have KPIs. But it should definitely be open to growth.
I like that. I like that. Well, one thing that I noticed when we were teaching, of course, Gold here recently was Amanda's examples were very much color oriented as well. Even though color is like, it seems very basic, but you know, hers had a really unique color coordination to them, correct?
Absolutely. Which, you know, everyone, I think if you've ever attended a call, you could guess what the colors of the AJF branding is. And I think that's amazing, right? I could probably draw her logo just by memory because I see her on our calls and she always has that neon sign in the background. And I've seen her merch and I've seen the AJF logo on it. Same with TRM, right? Like I could draw that with my eyes closed. So it's really important to have consistent branding, logos, slogans, mottos, whatever you want to call them across the board.
I love that. Is there anything in SOPs that, you know, that you want more almost like a beginner to know? Like if a beginner comes into this call, they're like, oh my gosh, SOP sounds so big, sounds so heavy and intense. Where would you have them start?
I'd have them start with Amanda's. I think starting with why you need one. And I don't think enough people realize it. I mean, one of the reasons, Mathew, that you and I can take off half an hour in the middle of our day to record this podcast is because we're not glued to our responses. or right? Like we have flexibility and freedom in our schedule, and you're going to soon experience a lot more of that once you go to the Cayman Islands. And it's, there's going to be some bureaucracy that you deal with and admin stuff, but you've created SOPs, and your McDonald's runs like again, like a conveyor belt. We all know what time to log on. We all have the links and the logins in case you can't make it. The SOP is just there. So for those people who are like, oh, it just seems like it'd be so much work. Okay, but it seems like it'd be more work never to be able to take off of work because you can't have anyone step into your shoes. If you're the only one who can do what you do, we have a problem. That's when that's when and why you need an SOP.
It's so funny. Last Thursday when I was heading to Orlando for the A4M conference, and I was like, I love being on Thursday calls. Like I almost say it's like my high for the week when I come on TRM calls.
Yeah.
I knew Jamie and Isaac were going to be on there, and I'm like, listen, you have the format, you got to process. Like you guys just like take the reins and take the leaders and the whole client base. And it's like I wasn't even there. It's like that's how. It's almost like such a pride, but also peace of mind.
Yeah.
You guys just, just rock it like with so much power and awesomeness. So, and that of course took time to foster that kind of, growth over time. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's, I guess, really important to mention also is that just because you understand how your business works doesn't mean everyone else is going to understand it or even be able to implement it right away. It's funny. I had Dr. Jen Melancon in my breakout room for our group coaching call today. And she said she wants to take in an already established, skilled therapist because she runs a very high level PT practice and she doesn't want some baby fresh out of whatever PT school joining her practice. But the flip side there is that a highly skilled professional PT is going to come in with their idea of already knowing how to run a business or how to do physical therapy. So Dr. Jen needs an SOP saying, listen, I respect you as a professional, but it's my business, right? So again, you need this for your people because otherwise it's just going to be a free-for-all.
That is so true. That is so true. So kind of going down the chain of the 7 sections, Jamie, I know we talked about purpose and method. Also, you mentioned standard, obviously was a big one. Let's kind of dive into the marketing and side of things. So like how deep would you say is a good depth to go in like laying out marketing in the SOP?
If you don't have a lead gen problem and you're booking 6 to 8 calls every day and signing 6 to 10 clients every month, don't bother with marketing. If this doesn't sound like your life, you're going to have to figure out marketing. And that starts with your message. So again, I help, I optimize, we transform, right? Whatever it is, again, your entire team should be congruent with that marketing message. And then who is going to cover what platforms? Are we going to, is so-and-so already big on TikTok? So they're going to maximize their platform whereby you're a YouTube personality and this person is on Twitch. So heck, why not? And then again, it distills from there. How many times per week are they going to post? Have they already established what their particular demographics pain points are and what they want, what their goals, hopes, and dreams are? Because again, we want some problem aware and solution aware posts. So marketing is everything, but it doesn't just have to be social media, right? If, again, Josh Thomas, great example. His assistant coach works part-time at a Sprouts, which is very similar to Whole Foods, a lot of natural, organic, oh my gosh, like over-the-counter supplements. He would be amazing in talking to people every single day. What fantastic marketing, right? So Josh is going to assign this guy marketing in person, right? Setting up demos for a particular supplement, or maybe if Sprouts ever had some sort of a big parking lot block party, of course, Josh would set up a banner or a mini booth. So there are so many different directions you can go with marketing, but people just have to know where they stand with it.
I love that. And what's so cool about that, Jamie, is that, the reason we have SOPs near the end of TRM is because literally they're building all of this stuff throughout the whole TRM Gold program.
Yeah.
Right. So SOPs, all of a sudden you're just kind of plugging and playing with things. in the SOPs, but like you're bang on. And like the marketing, you might have, again, your ideal client, but you might have a secondary ideal client, but you have your primary ideal client. And you broke everything like Jamie's talked about, but now your team, whether it's your first VA you're hiring or your next coach you're hiring, now can look at the marketing process you have, whether it's a 1-page or a 2-page, whatever you got, and they're going to be clear pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so what are you doing? Absolutely. The other thing I will say, especially regarding clarity, is don't hand away to someone something you've never done yourself. Like if Josh has never set up a booth and talked to people at a farmer's market or a Sprouts in real life, it's very hard to write an SOP for someone else about it. So I would recommend that whether it's cold DMs on Instagram, making TikToks, again, setting up a booth in real life, asking for a referral via email, do it yourself like 100 times. Well, obviously, like don't set up 100 booths, but you know what I mean? Like be super comfortable with it so that it's going to be so seamless for you to write it down. That being said, Alvin had such a good point at the end of the group call today where he said, listen, if someone else is better at you and then better than you at doing something and they've done it a million times, have them write out the SOP for how they've done it in a working manner, and then just add your touches to it, which I thought was so brilliant. So if Justin has run 100 booths at 100 farmers markets, he could write Josh's SOP for that section for him.
That is so true. Oh my gosh, so true. Easier to replicate, 100%. Easier to replicate. Makes complete sense.
Definitely, right? Definitely.
I love that. Let's kind of go over a couple. We have consultation, sales, coaching, and metrics, right? You mentioned KPIs. Now with KPIs and so forth, Jaime, like that obviously is a pretty important, indicator when it comes to SOPs for our coaching and coaching in general, right? Yep. With KPIs, name areas or basic areas, if you could, on what around metrics would be really important to have in an SOP for the coaching SOP.
So I want everyone who's listening to take this with a grain of salt, because my coaching business has been built organically 90% from Instagram. So my lens that I look at lead gen from is mostly Instagram. Now, that being said, I ask for referrals still. I have created a lead magnet or several still. So in terms of KPIs, the majority of what I have is based on Instagram. So I've told my assistant coaches how many conversations per week would be considered under average, at average, above average, or exceeding average. Mm-hmm. And then, as I mentioned, right from conversation started, we want pitched calls, booked calls, closed calls. We want back-end conversions. So that means after the initial contract is up, how many of them did you renew? So there's a certain percentage, not a certain number, right? Because if I were to tell you that I want you renewing 60 people per month, but there's only 20 on your roster, that wouldn't make sense. So there's a percentage. Preventing cancellations within the first 3 months is another important metric. How many testimonials I want you collecting each month, that is a flat rate number. Frequency of asking for referrals. And then, of course, just straight posting, right? Mm-hmm. I want you posting more than 3 times in our Facebook group and on your own social media platforms. And I specified Instagram, but if they wanted, double up and do TikTok or YouTube shorts, that's totally fine. So those are my key metrics.
So guys, take notes there, guys. That's like 30
seconds and write that all down.
It's like watch it back 3 or 4 times, guys. Record it, watch it again, make more notes, and there you have your KPIs for your SOP.
Yes. Yeah. But again, if people don't know what they're shooting for, right? If Tim Hortons doesn't have a framework for how many coffees sold that they want every day, or what, that they want every customer getting their order within 20 seconds, and that is a standard, mm-hmm. then people are just going to, muck around behind the counter. And you don't want your people doing that.
100%. One thing with SOPs, guys, for those watching, whether you have one or you don't, or you building one right now currently, it is a process you're going to be going through that's going to keep continually going on for your business. And Jay mentioned, your first place definitely is getting the core values, the method, the purpose down, the vision down, just to have an idea of, as you flush everything down the chain out, and it might only be half a page for every item for now, just to get the ball going. And you can always add more or refine more as you keep building it.
That's exactly it. Again, it is not, your business is not stuck in stone right now. I hope, I wish, I pray that you are continuing to grow. And as you do, your SOP has to. There's no option.
I love it. Any last thoughts you want to mention regarding SOPs, or how to use it, how to build it, how to implement the SOPs? Just any other thoughts that come to mind for you that you'd like to share?
No, not yet. But I would love if you wouldn't mind quickly going back over the 7 elements so people could write them down.
Sure.
Guys, please, this is that point of the podcast where you push pause, take out a pen and paper, or just use the notes in your phone and write down these 7 chapters, and then feel free to flesh them out yourself.
I love it, Jaime, 100%. So we call these guys the SOP framework, and it's going to be over 7 areas. And as you talked about, the first area we have is vision, purpose, and method, which also will include your core values as well. That's number 1. Number 2 is your standards. So standards of practice, standards of dress codes, language, things that, of course, you're going to have in your company that really kind of, raise the bar, keep the bar at a certain level. Number 3 is marketing. So you're going to break down your marketing process, like Jay mentioned, ideal client, all that kind of stuff, pain points, desires, to really kind of learn the avatar and so forth. 4 is consultation process. Looking at, of course, how do you conduct consults? How are they in person, online, virtually? What is the process there? What is all the GM as far as what people will need or the team will need to conduct those? 5 is sales process, which comes into your sales funnel, your sales, the way you conduct sales calls, the way you do follow-up, all that good stuff. Coaching. Coaching comes into, of course, if you eventually have your own coaches, what is the coaching process there, all that kind of stuff. And the last part is metrics or invoicing or compensation you're going to be having in your business model, whether it's you or a team or a VA. And really kind of those are your 7 layers you're going to have that you can just keep it very simple and just have a paragraph for each to start, and then add on that as you keep building it.
I love that. Guys, I was about to end it, but Mathew, you were an incredible host. Holy crap. Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for all the great questions.
You hammered it honestly, it was one of those things where you kept nailing it with so much oh my gosh, this is actually a training here. I'm like, I better go back and make more notes on this training.
So
yeah. This call, guys, literally, you're getting all this value for free. But if you want to get it in depth, you can just go to TRM, and join our TRM Gold program, guys. I'm just saying, we're just saying here, Jaime will be on there mentoring you.
Yeah.
Just saying, Any last thoughts, Jaime, before we close out this wonderful show today?
Absolutely no problem whatsoever, Mathew. No extra thoughts. You were great.
So are you. Well, you're like the killer when it comes to finishing off the podcast. You're like the master blaster. So, if you want to kind of round it off with where they can follow us.
Of course. Yes. Guys, if you liked what you heard or what you saw, please follow us, subscribe to the podcast, like it, rate it, share it on Facebook and Instagram. You can find us at Trainer Revenue Multiplier. That's our name across the board. We look forward to having you on the next podcast as well. And until then, we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Jaime. That was so freaking good, as always.